there. Today we are going to be doing a cool history lesson called Understanding the Black Death. And the first thing I'm going to do, as we always do, is cite our sources. So I'm going to cite mine. It is from Stanford History Education Group, also known as SHEG. And I know you guys are familiar with that because I love to use their activities and you learn a lot from them. So this is the lesson we are doing today. And I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my Google slideshow and put it into view mode. And the Black Death, you've probably heard of that before. It's also known as the bubonic plague. It decimated, killed large populations around parts of the world between the 1330s and 1350s, so about a 20-year span or so. There is continued debate about the origins of the plague, and many scientists and historians today believe that the plague resulted from the bacteria Yersinia pestis, which is common in fleas and carried by rodents. Once the bacteria jumped to humans, it became highly contagious. Symptoms of the bubonic plague included fever, gangrene, chills, cramps, seizures, and painful swelling of the lymph glands called buboes. Most people who contracted the plague died within days, unfortunately. And at the time of the pandemic, it was called the Great Pestilence, the Great Plague, or the Great Mortality. The term the Black Death came into popularity among German and English speakers in the 1800s and continues to be used today. And I'm going to back up for a minute. I use the word pandemic, and I know you're very familiar with that word because we are currently experiencing one called COVID-19. So we're going to talk about how we can compare those two later on at the end of the lesson. So the spread of the plague, you can see those arrows there indicating the progress of the plague, the little dots indicating the recorded outbreaks, and then the gray shaded areas were the areas of the outbreak. And you should be very familiar with this map since we've been studying all of these areas, in particular Europe. So you can see that it is believed to have started in China and flowed this way towards Europe and the Middle East. And that was likely originated in the 1330s and traveled west along trade routes, both by land and sea. The human costs. The plague was a pandemic, as I mentioned, and it killed between, and this is a huge range, so you obviously would have to go find some more sources and look and see how many sources corroborate the numbers, what is actually more accurate. So anyways, it killed between 75 and 200 million people across 3 different continents. The death rates included approximately 1/3 of the population in the Middle East and nearly 1/2 of the population in Europe. So quite a bit more severe than what we are experiencing today. Understanding and explaining the plague. People in the 14th century had little knowledge of how the plague originated. They weren't really sure how it spread, and they weren't sure how to treat it. Across the world, people struggled to make sense of the pandemic. And to give just one example of something that they did, the picture is called flagellation, which is a religious practice of whipping oneself for penance, and it grew in popularity during the Black Death. I know you guys are thinking that's crazy, but you're going to read some documents today to try to figure out how people understood the Black Death. So again, we're going to look at documents, and you are going to be answering this central historical question: how did people in the 14th century understand the Black Death? What did they think about it? What could cure it? How did they think you got it? How could you be protected from it? And so how we're going to be doing that is by analyzing documents and giving you a graphic organizer. The first document you're going to be looking at is document A from the University of Paris Medical Report. You're going to be sourcing that and trying to figure out where it's from, when it was written. You can probably already see some of that right now. I gave you the modified version, not the really difficult version that they have. So you and your partner, yes, you'll be with a partner, are going to be reading this together, highlighting important information and annotating. You're going to read document A, and then you're going to fill in the graphic organizer that goes with document A. Then you will read, and it gives you vocabulary, Document B by Ibn al-Wardi. Again, the modified version. You're going to source that out and answer some questions. There's your vocab, and here's your graphic organizer. So here is the boxes you will fill in for Document A, Paris Medical Faculty, who wrote it, when and where was this document written, why was it written, and do you think people in 1348 trusted and believed these authors? And you need to put your why. I don't just want a yes or a no. That is not telling me anything about what you understand. I would like to know why. You're going to do the same thing for Document B right there. Then you're going to keep reading closely, corroborate the evidence. Where did the plague originate according to Document A, and where did it originate according to Document B? What or who caused the plague according to A and according to B? What should people have done to try to prevent or cure the plague? That's not what you yourself personally thinks they should have done. What did they believe in Document A that people should have done? And then in Document B, how did people try to prevent or cure the plague? Then at the end, you're going to look at both documents again, closely read them, and you're going to answer the final questions. How do these documents illustrate how people understood the Black Death at that time? List 2 to 3 questions you still have about the Black Death or how people understood it. And finally, what types of documents might you examine to try and answer these questions? Tomorrow, we will be doing some more work with this, where I'm going to ask you how people 700 years from now, be thinking about this as you're reading these documents. 700 years from now, if kids were doing an activity from Stanford or anywhere else saying, how did people in the 21st century understand COVID-19? What kind of documents would they be looking at? What did we know today? I want you to think about those kinds of things, and there'll be another video about that. Have fun with this, you guys. I look forward to discussing it with you tomorrow and getting your thoughts. There's a lot of great discussion that comes out of this. I want you to use some great analyzing skills and be a historian.